Okay, so let's start. So yesterday's class we were learning these points, that is decisions related to the delivery of services. Now in this I explained this slide with the first point, that is service channel options. In this we have three more points under them, that is agents and brokers, how these people are gonna work in between to make sure that the products reaches the customers or consumers. Then franchising, you take the rights to start a store which is already there. Example, all your fast food centers like McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, all these are included in franchising stores. So whenever you see a lot of branches out in every area, those are franchise stores. The rule in franchising is you will have to make sure the store is retains the originality of the product. Okay, they cannot change any of the store design, or they cannot change the products which they are selling. So that is the rule in franchising. Next, electronic channels. There are certain ways how you can utilize these electronic means and deliver the product, by giving advertisements on televisions, or giving a promotional calls on telephone. You will have lot of people calling to provide loans, or for admissions, you will have lot of calling from different colleges being received. So all these are electronic ways or electronic channels of delivering the services. Then continuation of this, let us see few more points. The next one is service distributor strategy. Here what is going to happen is, the distribution strategies of service organization, they will focus on certain things. So what are those things? We will see issues such as convenience, number of outlets, direct versus indirect distribution, location and scheduling. Now when they start a store, how are they going to make sure that the distribution of the product happens properly? Let's take an example like Domino's. Now if you have a nearby Domino's store, so either you can drop into the store, or you can order through phone number, or you can order through app, or you can order through website. So you have four options here. Either you can directly go to the store, or call them, or you can order on app or on website. Now once they get the order, by whichever means you order, once they get your order, they have to make sure that the product is delivered to you within certain time period. Now you order after 2 hours if they get you the product, and which means the product delivery is not properly done. So now Domino's store will have to check how are they going to deliver the order. Now you can see lot of vehicles, two wheelers with the Domino's box or the container which they have. Now inside the container they cannot keep the pizza directly, so they have the bags, or those bags will make sure that the pizza stays hot. So they have lot of packing as well as packaging which is required for them to do the distribution. Now apart from that, they will also think about how many stores are we supposed to open. Now Domino's is so widely spread that every area will have two minimum of two stores. Okay, sometimes you can find in one lane, in alternative lane you can find Domino's also. So such things, and also you have this lassi shop. Now these shops also have many outlets, so they decide on how many number of outlets they are supposed to open. Then direct versus indirect distribution. Direct distribution is when you go, your own employee, that is Domino's employee or lassi shop person, directly comes in, gives the product, or they will have a tie up with somebody else who will do the work for them. Now for this you can take an example of Swiggy. Now Swiggy or Zomato is just a platform where you will have to order the products, and the person, this Swiggy person or the Zomato person will buy the products on your behalf and deliver it to you. So that is direct versus indirect. Then location and scheduling. Now location, where you have to start the store. We have dealt enough about location in the previous chapter on deciding where to start the store, how to start the store, which is the best place to start the store. All that we have seen already. So using all those factors, we will be checking on which store to start. Then we will also see on the scheduling. So what is the timings of the shop, how do we manage the shop, all that we will see. And how many employees do we need, do we really need too many employees, all that we can check upon. Okay, so that is the service distribution strategy. Next, the next point is talking about the key factor influencing the selection of a service provider is convenience. Therefore, service firms must offer convenience. All the store are expected to be flexible. Okay, every store is expected to be flexible in every terms, maybe selling of the product, or in their discounts, or when customer comes and approaches them in any manner. So all the cases, if they are flexible, it will be more convenient for the customer to approach the outlet or the shop over and again. So that is the major factor which will influence the service provider. If I go to a store and if they don't come and ask what I require, or if they don't come and inquire about my requirements, my likes and dislikes, then I will not prefer to go back to the same store. I will say, okay, they don't give me good service, I don't want to go. So the major point here is how well you can make the customer comfortable in the store. Then the next point is a firm can choose any of the following three distribution strategies of reaching its services. So they are giving us three major distribution strategies which will help us to reach out to the customers. So out of that, first one is intensive service distribution. Here what are they doing? Intensive service distribution, they are going to seek to distribution a service or product through available channels. What are the best available channels which is easily available for me to give the products? Now suppose if I want some basic necessity, let's say I want to buy a grocery and I don't have time to buy the grocery. Now I download an app, maybe a Big Basket or Grofers. I order on Grofers. Now once I order on Grofers, they will see my order, they will immediately buy all the products that I have ordered and make sure that reaches me or to my home directly. So that is the least available channel. So they personally go buy the products and make sure it reaches the customer. Usually an intensive distribution suits item with wide appeal across broad group of consumers. These groceries or daily essentials which you can find now on every online platform, Flipkart, Amazon, Big Basket, Grofers, and you have many other platforms for that matter. So these intensive service distribution only take care of general products. They don't go to customized products, they only think about general products which are available everywhere and they distribute those products. Next, exclusive service distribution. Here a product takes place through one wholesaler or retailer on a specific geographical area. Now here what happens is there will be only one shop for that particular product. So if you want to buy the product, you have to go to that shop only. So they will have the shops, maybe for full of South Bangalore, there is only 2 shops available. So that wholesaler or retailer will have to exclusively give the products for the customers. You can find showrooms, okay, electrical showrooms or other appliances showrooms. If you buy if you observe, few showrooms are there specifically for the geographical area. Or if you can see certain medical shops, pharmacy who gives out or who sells all type of medicines. Okay, they are also exclusive service distribution because they will be a wholesaler or a retailer for a specific geographical area. Another example with the pharmacy is you will not find homeopathy medicines that easily in the medical shops. Okay, so if you take an example of homeopathy medical store, okay, a medical store which only sells homeopathy medicines, then in that case you will have exclusive service distribution. So they will make sure the stock is maintained and the customers will receive the medicine, and they will not have too many outlets. It will be given to specific outlets only, and they will be continuing with that. So these are first two types where the distribution strategies are planned upon. So that is intensive service distribution, exclusive service distribution. So I hope everybody is clear with this slide. Anybody has doubt in this slide? Kindly reply in chat. Okay. Let's see the last point of the three strategies. So the first strategy which we saw here was intensive service, next was exclusive service, and the last is selective service. Now in this selective service distribution, the distribution of the product is done only by limited number of channels. Everybody will not come onto the road to deliver the product, or not in every shop you will get the product. So here very limited number of channels you will be present where you will have to buy the products. Now the arrangement will help in the price cutting also. Sometimes now if you want to buy one product, it is available in only one means. You cannot go out and buy on any normal store. Such products are selective service distribution. Nowadays you can find many of the products online. Even then few products has to be imported, okay, from other countries. Those things will take time and it will reach you a little later than the other products. So those all categories come under selective service distribution. Now here they will limit on the retailers. They will not just give out the products to everybody to sell. Okay, so they're limiting their market, but whoever wants the product, they will be delivered the product by some particular means. So that is selective service distribution. And the last point under the decision is service distribution location. Now here the customer has to know where the store is located. If the store is nearby to their home, then it is easy for them to go and buy the products. So always location is very, very important when you're selling the product or opening any of the store. Now when you go to a store and if you find the person or the shopkeeper being friendly and he makes sure to give the right products, give good advice to you on buying the products, all this will make sure that you visit the store over and again. You always try to visit the same store and buy the products because you are more comfortable. The interaction with the shopkeeper will be comfortable for you, and they also know about the customers. So this distribution location plays an important role along with the service given by the shopkeeper. So if that location is in a very proper place where there is people around, or there are residential place around, there are apartments around, you have a main road nearby. So in such case what will happen, the people who go out on the road, if they want any product immediately, they can buy the products from the store. So that is service distribution location. So to summarize, these are the points for decisions related to delivery of service. Very important question from the point of view of exam, 14 marks question. So first you have service channel options. In this options you have agents and brokers, franchising and electronic channels who will be serving the customers. Then after that you have service distributor strategy. Then you have to think about the convenience of the customer. Then they have given us 3 distribution strategies where we can serve the customer. Under this, the 3 distribution strategies were intensive service, exclusive service, selective service. These were the three main strategies. Then the last point under decisions were service distribution, location. Okay, I hope everybody understood this slide also. Did you all understand? Any doubts here? Okay, so let's go to the next P of marketing. So first we learnt about product. So what is product, objectives of product, features of product, then what are the decisions taken in delivering the product, all that we saw. Now that was the first P of marketing. Now the second P of marketing is price. Now how much product plays major role, price also plays major role in selling the product. Now without a price you cannot sell a product, right? So let's understand what is the definition of the price. Okay, so this first point is the definition of the price. So price is the value that will purchase a definite quantity or weight or other measure of a goods or service. So we are giving a value, okay, we are giving a value for a goods or services where this value is related to the quantity, weight or other measure. Okay, so 2 points you have to understand. Price is a value. So we are giving a value for what? For the goods or service. Now this value is given on the basis of quantity, weight or other measure. It's a consideration given in exchange for transfer of ownership. Price forms the essential basis of commercial transactions. Now consideration is one word which is used for the amount you pay. Okay, when you buy any product, let's take for example, we have bought a pencil. Now when we buy one pencil, the amount that we give, let's say we are paying 5 rupees for a pencil, that 5 rupees is called as consideration. So we give consideration in exchange for the transfer of ownership. So before I pay that 5 rupees, the pencil belonged to the shopkeeper. Now that I have paid 5 rupees for the pencil, that pencil belonged to me. So I have the ownership of the pencil. I've given a simple example. This product can be anything of any higher or lower value. So consideration given in exchange for transfer of ownership, and this price will form the basis of commercial transaction. Now we sell the products, the retailers sell the products, customers buy the products. Now this selling and buying will become one business, that is a commercial activity, that is also known as commercial transaction. So price is that value that will purchase a definite quantity, weight or other measure of a good or service. That's it is one goods or one product, then it is called good or service. Then it is consideration given in exchange for transfer of ownership. Price forms the essential basis of commercial transaction. Okay, did you all understand the definition of price? Important 2 marks question. Define price. Let's go and understand a little more meaning in much more simpler form. Okay, so price may be fixed by the contract, left to be determined by an agreed upon formula at the future date, or discovered or negotiated during the course of the link between the party involved. This is more technical in nature. Now what they are saying is, when there are two people, let's just understand this through an example. Now there are two people. Okay, there is one shop. This is a stationery shop. Okay, and the shopkeeper who is in this shop is called A, and there is a customer who is called B. Okay, there's a customer who is called B. Now B wants a pencil. We'll stick on to the same pencil example. Okay, so B wants a pencil. Now this pencil will be found in stationery shop. So B goes to buy pencil from A's store. Okay, he goes and asks for a pencil, which means he is there is some contract which has been happening between A and B when he asks for a pencil. Okay, now A will go and get the pencil from any cupboard or drawer, and he will give the pencil to B. Okay, he's giving the pencil to B. Now, which means once A handovers the pencil to B, it is B's duty to pay the amount. Now, A is giving the pencil, which means it is implied that it is known that B is giving the money or rupees to A. It may be 5, it may be 50, 500, 5,000, 5 lakh, anything amount it might be. So B is supposed to pay the amount. So that is what they are giving here in the meaning. So a price is fixed by the contract. So before only the price will be fixed. That price only will be put onto the product and to be sold on to the customer. Now here stationery, there is a fixed price. Suppose it is vegetable. Let's take another example. C has a vegetable shop. Now it's not a hi-fi shop and all, it's a small shop. Now let's say X will go and buy the vegetables here. Okay, X is buying the vegetables here. Now if he says 1 kg of carrot, okay, 1 kg of carrot, if C says it is 100 rupees, for example, okay, 100 rupees. So now X will say 100 is too much for this. Now give it to me for 50 rupees, which means he is bargaining. So another word for that is negotiation. He's negotiating the price. He's saying, okay, he's giving another offer. Okay, now not 100, but pay it to me for 50 rupees. Or sorry, give me the product for 50 rupees. So there will be two people involved, and these people will do the transaction, and X will buy the carrot for 50 rupees. But what will X say is, I will not take the product now. You have to send me carrot tomorrow. Okay, this today he came to the store and he has negotiated the price. He wants the product tomorrow. So on a future date, okay, on a future date, he is getting the product. Now when it's on a future date, when he's doing a product, a contract is being set for him. What is the contract? That X is gonna pay 50 rupees for each kg of carrot, and C is supposed to deliver the product to X tomorrow. So that is the contract, and they are gonna execute the contract on a future date. So here, this again, the contract is again based on the price, because price is already fixed when they say you will have to sell me carrot at this particular price. So this second point is completely technical in nature. When I take the first example here, it is direct sale. You ask for pencil, you pay the amount, you take the pencil and go. There is no contract, there is immediate sale, and the price is already fixed. Now in the second example, you have a chance of bargaining. Okay, here even if you bargain for a pencil, nobody will give it below 5 rupees. So for other products like vegetables, fruits, or a few other groceries, selected ones, you can always negotiate the price. So that is also another meaning or definition of a price. Hope everybody understood the second point here. Anybody has doubt here in the second point? So let's see the next point. The price is determined by what a buyer is willing to pay. So we are seeing what are the important points to be noted while selling the product. So the first one is the buyer should be willing to buy. So which means in my second example where C had a vegetable shop and X was supposed to come and buy. So now X should be willing to pay the price. He told 100 rupees. C told 100 rupees, but X was not ready. He gave an immediate counter offer of 50 rupees, right? So here X was not willing to buy at 100 rupees. Next, a seller is willing to accept. So C, when C told it, he's supposed to sell carrot at 100 rupees, and when X told 50 rupees, if C did not accept it, okay, if C is not accepting it, then the seller is not willing to accept. Okay, so which means the transaction will not take place. Okay, they will not sell the carrot. Suppose if C is giving it at 100 and X will say give me at 50 rupees, and C will accept. He will say okay, take it at 50 rupees. Then seller is willing to accept the price, and competition is allowing to be charged. This is very, very important. Okay, competition is allowing to be charged. Now in the market, if the carrot price is, let's say, it is somewhere nearby 100, okay, if it is 105, 1 or 95, okay, 5 rupees above and 5 rupees below, so C has kept a reasonable price of 100 when it compares to market. So this is allowed by competition. Okay, if this is allowed by competition, there's no problem. But if the carrot price is just 30 rupees, 1 kg carrot is just 30 rupees, and C is selling at 100 rupees, which means this is not allowed by competition. You cannot have so much difference in price. 70 rupees of difference in price is too much when you're selling the products. So this is not allowed by competition, this difference. If the difference is less with your price and the market price, then the competition will allow it. So these are the important factors which will determine the price of a product, where the buyer should be willing to pay and the seller should be willing to accept the price, and the competition should allow to be charged. So that is the three factors. Then pricing and pricing policy. So there is a little connected concept of pricing. So let's see what is that. Pricing is a process of determining, one second. Pricing is a process of determining what a company will receive in exchange for its products. And now, to keep a price, it is not that easy. Now, even though if you take a small pencil or a pen to be sold or eraser to be sold, when they are selling a pencil at 5 rupees, there is lot of calculations behind that price which is kept for one pencil or one product or 1 kg of product. Everything will have a calculation behind them. Okay, so that is the pricing, the process of how do you determine the to sell the product at one rate or one particular product you are selling. Okay, it's a method adopted by the firm to set its selling price. Now for one pencil, how much are you charging? For one box of pencil, how much will you charge? What is 1 kg of sugar, 1 kg of rice? Okay, all this are selling price to be determined, and the process of determining that is called pricing. Next, pricing policy. Okay, this is a policy which is set by the companies. Can you all hear my voice? Is my voice audible, or anybody has problem with it? Can you all hear me? Okay, so let's continue. Pricing policy is that policy which is set by the company. Now here the company makes sure that they consider all the internal and external factors before they define a policy. Now for every product they will have certain pricing policy determined. Now let's take for example, they want to sell a To consider, let's again take pizza. Now, to sell one pizza, how can they determine the price? First thing, how much the ingredients will cost them. Okay, that is the manufacturing price or the production cost what they take. So how much does it cost for them to get all the raw materials or ingredients? Now, after taking all the cost, they will add what is the packing charges. You get those cardboard boxes where they give you the pizza, right? So, okay, some of you still have the issue. Is my voice echoing, or is the voice clear for everybody? So pricing policy we were talking about. Now first was manufacturing cost, then packaging or packing cost. After that we add up distribution cost. Now the people who go around to deliver the pizza, their salaries and the fuel expenses for the two wheelers that we have been using, all that will be considered. Apart from that, last we will add a little amount of profit required to run the company. So that will be one set of rules which we will frame at once and follow for the products for our company. Okay, then pricing is considered as one of the basic and central problems of economic theory in modern economy. It's very, very difficult to give a proper price for a product, because if we keep very low price, people will think the quality is not good. If we keep very high price, they will not even buy the product, thinking seeing the price. Okay, if you happen to sell one hairpin at 50 rupees, 50, no one is going to buy. But if you happen to sell a bunch of hair clips at 50 rupees, then they will find it reasonable. So there is always this pricing problem to define a proper price for a product. But somewhere around there are many theories, there are many methods where we will be able to give the price. So we'll be seeing that one after the other slowly. Okay, so that is pricing and pricing policy. Any doubt in this slide? Did you all understand? Okay, now coming to the objectives of price policy. Okay, thank you for the reply, students. Okay, now coming to the objectives of price policy, another important question in your examination. From price, until now I told two questions might come. One is definition of price, and the second one is, that's for 2 marks, and this is 6 marks question, sometimes asked for 14 marks. Not very sure about that, but for 6 marks they have asked this, that is objectives of price policy. So let's just understand this using this diagram here. So objectives of price policy has 9 points. Now in that, first we will learn about these 3 points here. Profit maximization. Now price policies or the rules and regulations which have been framed for a product, to sell a product, that is majorly done to maximize the profit of the organization. Nobody will sell or nobody will give out the products free of cost. Everybody wants to sell the product and get the profit out of the business they do. So profit maximization is their first objective, why they want to give out certain rules and regulations for the price of a product. For example, if we keep that same pizza example, now one pizza, if it's costing somewhere around 350 rupees, for example, so in that 350 rupees they would have added the profit content already. So maybe 50 rupees or 80 rupees per pizza will be their profit content. So that will add on to their profit the more number of pizzas they sell. Next, so that is profit maximization. Next is price stabilization. Now just because we are getting more profit, just because more of Domino's pizzas are being sold, it doesn't mean they can give out the product at a higher price. Or let's say for example, Apsara pencil. Now, Apsara pencil, all school going kids use Apsara pencil, right? Majority of them, at least. Okay, we cannot say everybody, majority of them uses Apsara pencil. Now, Apsara pencil, just because many people are buying their products, they cannot keep one pencil at 15 rupees. Okay, so it's not that if they keep one pencil at 15 rupees, it means they are being more greedy in getting the profit. So they have to stabilize their price or reduce and make sure the price is little stable in the market when their sales increases. If they have any new policies coming up, then they can increase or decrease the price of the product. So always stabilizing the price of the product will fetch them more profit rather than fluctuating price. So today if you go and ask a pencil, they say it is 15 rupees. Tomorrow you come and ask, they will say 5 rupees. The other day you ask, they will say 8 rupees. This is fluctuation of price. But anytime you go and ask anywhere, if the pencil is priced at 5 rupees throughout the country or throughout the state, which means you are getting stable profits. Sometimes you will also get higher profits because the price is same in all the places. So that is price stabilization. So we saw the first point, profit maximization. Price rules or price policy is always given to increase the profit of the company. We have to stabilize or maintain the prices in a reasonable amount so that we can increase that profit. Then facing competitive situation. Now this competitive, there are many competitive products. Okay, there are always competitors for every business. For the same Apsara business, you have lot of competitors. You have Natraj, Doms, Camel, then Faber-Castell. You have so many other brands where, or the other companies which are giving out the same pencil. So they come out with various designs or various shapes, that's all. So Faber-Castell has triangle pencil. Then you have another, let's say Doms, they have complete round pencil. They have plain colored pencil, floral designs. They want to make it as attractive so the students can use it happily. So these companies are facing the competition, even though they have cutthroat, which means very, very difficult competition. Even then they are surviving in their business all time. So that is facing competitive situation. Now when they are facing this competition, they should not increase or decrease price too much. Suppose for Apsara, let's take Faber-Castell as the competitor, direct competitor. Now Faber-Castell pencils may be sold at 8 rupees. Just because they are selling at 8 rupees, Apsara should also not increase the price to 10 rupees. Okay, which in return what will happen is the sales of Faber-Castell will increase. So let's understand this. Now there is Apsara pencil and there is Faber-Castell pencils. Now Faber-Castell pencils is always sold at 8 rupees, for example. Apsara was selling at 4 before. Now just because Faber-Castell pencils are selling at higher cost, Apsara also should not increase their cost to 10. If they do this, it's a wrong decision where they will be losing lot of customers. So people will see immediate other product and they will buy Faber-Castell instead of Apsara. So you have to face the competition and also survive in the business. So make sure your sales or your price policy is at a reasonable rate. To get that reasonable rate, there are many other things to consider. So these are the major points, major first 3 points in price policy. Any doubt in this? Any doubt in the first 3 points? Everybody understood? Okay, so this is where they have explained you the first 3 points: profit maximization in short term, price stabilization, facing competitive situation. The same thing has been explained here. Okay, so we'll go to the next three terms. Okay, we'll go to the next three terms here. This triangle, penetration of the market. Now once you get the product, once you launch the product, how do you enter into the market? That is called penetration. You are entering into the market. Now there is a brand called DOMS. You might have heard about this. Okay, there's a brand called DOMS. They are also into stationery again. Now this DOMS first came up with only pencils, erasers, very fancy scent erasers, crayons. Okay, they came up with those things first, and slowly they increased their variety of products. So that is penetration. You introduce the product to the market and you increase your sales, and then you will slowly increase the variety of the products also. Now that is penetration of the market. Now after that you have achieving a target return. Now once this DOMS came into the market, first let's say they came up with only two products. Okay, first they came up with only two products. Now after this, now DOMS is known to everybody. This was first stage of the company. Only two products they came out. Now in these two products, they will keep the price of the product low until they achieve some target sales. Let's say they wanted to sell 1 lakh units of both product 1 and product 2. So that was their target return. So once they sell all of this, target quantity, then they will introduce another new product along with 1 and 2. Now in the second phase they have a new product along with the old products 1 and 2. So they are giving a new product and also achieving the target returns on the quantity as well as on the price. And the next point is ability to pay. Now we should also see the ability to pay of customers and also of company. Now let's understand how this is different. Now when we take customers, for that matter, customers should be able to pay the price of a product. Now if one set of crayons is, say, suppose 30 rupees, for example, one set of crayons is 30 rupees. Now the customers should be able to pay this 30 rupees for the crayons of DOMS, and also company should be able to sell the product at 30 rupees including their profit. Okay, if they are selling the products at loss, then there is no use. Okay, they should sell the products at profit in a normal situation. So that is ability to pay. So customers should be able to pay to the product, and company will get the profit. Once company gets the amount back, they have to pay to their suppliers. Suppliers for the DOMS, let's take for example, suppliers for the DOMS for crayons. Okay, for crayons you require wax. Okay, it's made out of wax. Okay, wax crayons are, but the main raw material is wax. And then for packaging you require the color paper. The printing has to be done on the paper. So all that comprises of ability to pay for customers as well as company. So this is the second set of objectives of price policy. The first set was regarding profit, that is profit maximization, profit stabilization, and facing the competitive situation. The second set of objectives were penetration into the market and achieving a target return, and also ability to pay by the customers for the product from the company to the supplier. So these are the second set of objectives. Okay, so you can see the 3 points here: deeper penetration of market, achieving a target return, and ability to pay that. Okay, everybody is clear with the second set of points also? Anybody has doubt in that? Fine. So we'll stop here for today and we'll continue the next set of objectives in the next class.